Among all the undeniable facts in this series, perhaps the genuinity of Ayanokoji is something that is rarely questioned by the readers. Even though he is kind of slow to show it, we could already make a conclusion that so far Ayanokoji is unmatched in his game. Either because he could memorize everything in a single glance, or because he never actually loses in mind games. However, as the saying goes, if there is no tiger in the forest, a monkey will call itself a king. We could say that Ayanokoji is a genius, but without a proper measurement, the word genius is nothing more than a statement. You could create a character by saying he has 500 IQ, or is capable of defeating a supercomputer in chess, but without a brilliant action to prove it, no one is going to believe the statement. You must have seen a lot of characters who were stated to be very smart, but constantly made stupid decisions. Although Ayanokoji is not stupid at all, his geniusity still needs to be questioned, because just like the monkey in the forest, there is no one in this story who ever becomes an equal challenge for Ayanokoji. Let's use the first island exam as an example. Volume 3 is the first volume where Ayanokoji actually takes action to outsmart someone, and even though he manages to outsmart Riwen and secure the first spot, I don't think what Ayanokoji did is actually that impressive in terms of outsmarting. We need to give him credit for figuring out Riwen's plan and taking advantage of Harikita's condition, but one thing we shouldn't forget is that Riwen was completely oblivious of Ayanokoji. Riwen didn't know anything about Ayanokoji, so he didn't make any plan to counter his action. This is quite the same as Ayanokoji's chess match with Sakai Yanagi, where Ayanokoji didn't have any expectation Tsukishiro would interfere, which resulted in his loss. Ayanokoji still deserves the credit for the deserted island exam, but once again, his action is not that impressive in terms of outsmarting. Moving to the volume for Zodiac exam, we finally saw Ayanokoji creating his own plan instead of taking advantage of someone else's plan. He managed to create a false impression by exchanging their phone number, but sadly he got caught by Ichinose. However, I never see someone scale Ayanokoji below Ichinose because of this scene, so I guess this scene gives us the solid proof that figuring out someone else's plan is easier compared to creating a plan from zero. If that's really the case, all of Ayanokoji's feats where he was only figuring out someone else's plan shouldn't be taken into consideration. The way he figured out Nagumo's plan in Volume 8, or how he figured out the first-year students' actions in the uninhabited island exam is not proof of him being smarter than anyone else. He undoubtedly has a great observation, but in terms of outsmarting, observation alone is not enough. If we look back up to the first volume, most of Ayanokoji's actions are actually taking advantage of someone else's plan. He gathers the information, makes some deductions, and finally adds his own twist so he always come out on top. There were some cases where he need to blackmail or manipulate someone, but people like Karizawa, Manabe, or even Horikita are not worth being taken as outsmarting feats. After all, it cannot be called outsmarting if your opponent is not smart. Compared to Ayanokoji, those students in ANHS are just like children in kindergarten, so when an adult managed to defeat a few kindergarten students, that wouldn't look impressive at all. It's indeed a harsh comparison, but that is how Ayanokoji is portrayed in the story. Ayanokoji indeed has some impressive strategies throughout the story, and I personally like how he cornered Kushida in Volume 5's second year arc. But since this is Kushida who became his target, I don't think it's enough to prove Ayanokoji's greatness. Kushida is a very emotional woman without strong planning to back up her hatred, so when Ayanokoji cornered her, she simply reaped what she sowed. It's not ethic to bring characters from another series, but what I consider a good case of outsmarting is the battle between Light and L from Death Note, where both sides have their fair share of losses, but keep coming up with the better plan to catch each other. Both of them create a mind game between equals, where we have no idea who will come out on top, but sadly the result of Ayanokoji's battles were often predictable. If one side always came out as the winner, then it's no longer called outsmarting, but a one-sided massacre, and sadly this is how it's going with Classroom Elite. Not only does Ayanokoji never actually lose, but all the battles feel so one-sided to the point that they feel bland and repetitive. It's usually started with the antagonist creating some kind of scheme, and then Ayanokoji will come up with a solution and win, and that will be the end of it. Let's take the class leader as an example. Starting from Riwen, his arc from Volume 3 up to Volume 7 is considered the peak of Classroom of the Elite, but if you look closely, all of the volumes have the same pattern. At first we will see what Ryuin has been planning while Ayanokoji gather information, and then we will see Ryuin temporarily get the upper hand before the twist comes up, and meet his inevitable lose. He did that in volumes 5 and 6, and when he finally realized he wouldn't be able to win if X kept messing in the background, he decided to lure him out. Ryuin's strategy in volume 7 is actually solid, and the only mistake he made was just miscalculating Ayanokoji's physical ability. Ayanokoji could confidently come to the rooftop because he knew he could handle the 4 of them by himself, but honestly it's not a good measurement for his brilliance. He knew about Ryuin's plan, so he just let it happen because he knew he could destroy them when the time came. Just imagine Ryuin preparing a trap for a fox, but the one who came is actually a gorilla, and that is how unfortunate Ryuin was. In this case, Ayanokoji was not outsmarting him, but toying with him like an adult in kindergarten. With all that case considered, it's clear that there is a really big gap between Ayanokoji and the class leaders. So watching him defeating them doesn't really feel like he is actually outsmarting them, but just a natural thing for an adult to win against kids. After all, a diamond is considered really valuable because it was compared to gold, not because it's compared to stone. However, we actually have another example of those who were way above the class leaders level, which are the 5th generation White Room students. Although both Yagami and Ichika are wasted potential, there is actually one scene where Ichika manages to outplay Ayanokoji. It happened in volume 2 second year arc, where Ichika tried to catch Kei in Ayanokoji's room. He managed to follow Kei unnoticed, and waited until the right time to make sure both of them were locked in their room. After that, she used her special privilege to force Ayanokoji to cook for her, and she even manages to predict Ayanokoji's movement, and cut his escape route by bringing her own ingredients. Just in that one scene, we saw Ayanokoji's intelligence getting challenged, and he actually failed to find a way to stop Ichika from entering her room. Unlike any other battle where Ayanokoji always win, in this scene he got a surprise attack, and he had nothing prepared to win. These little mind games with Ichika have proven that Ayanokoji is not actually that monstrous, but everyone else is just either too stupid, or giving him too much time to think. It's unfortunate that we never get more from Ichika, and it becomes even sadder when we see Yagami become the biggest disappointment in this series. I wouldn't call him stupid, but the fact that Ayanokoji just put in a very lazy effort to get him expelled shows us how unworthy he is to even be put in comparison. If even the best from the 5th generation cannot make Ayanokoji look at him, then the entire 4-class battle will be pointless as long as Ayanokoji is still there. To put it simply, this is the problem with how classroom elites scale their character, where Ayanokoji becomes some kind of godlike figure who is nearly untouchable. It's not a problem if he was the villain who will be defeated at the very end, but since Ayanokoji has existed since the beginning, the only way to scale him is just to go down, because if everyone around him is significantly lower than him, none of them would be able to push him up. Let's just say if Lelouch is the shiniest diamond among diamonds, Ayanokoji is a diamond that shines around the rock. Even though I hate power scaling, I could say that Lelouch is smarter than Ayanokoji simply because Lelouch fights in a way bigger league, and fights a lot of smart characters and manages to defeat them. That's why if Ayanokoji only swam in the middle of high school, he would only be known as a genius at the high school level. So, to answer the first question in the beginning of the video, Ayanokoji is undoubtedly a genius, but the kind of opponents he has are just dragging him down. For him to become the true genius, he needs to be challenged, or even lose a few battles, so when he actually gains victory, we know he actually deserves it, not just because he is running alone in the race. If we think about it, this is actually the problem with Koenji. He refused to participate in the special exam because he knew an adult is not supposed to compete with children, and looking at a diamond being compared to a mere stone would only hurt his feelings. If he is the only one in the whole school who has that kind of mentality, that means he might be the only person who is capable of proving if Ayanokoji is really a genius or not. After all, the only way to prove that you are strong is by defeating someone equal, or even stronger than yourself. So far the 3rd year arc doesn't really give Ayanokoji a good fight, but when Koenji inevitably take action, or when the political side gets involved, the scale will undoubtedly become higher. When the time actually comes, let's see if Ayanokoji could live up to all the statements that were put on him, or maybe he's just a big fish in a small pond.